This is where the fun begins. Are you sure? So be it. Did you miss me?
Hi, everyone. Oh, I don't have my camera on. I'll turn that on in a few seconds here. But hello, everyone, to Cap Chat. I'm so happy to be here with you this Thursday morning. And first of all, what is in your mug? So, what are you enjoying as you settle in so we can get into some Star Wars lore, history, all of that, and get into our discussions here? So, what's in your mug here? I'm drinking out of my Hope mug here, and of course, my coffee. My coffee. So, yes. So, good morning to you guys. Let's see here. Let's see who is showing up here. I'm going to go ahead to the comments here. So, we have 6 beautiful souls coming on here, and I know we'll climb up in numbers here soon. So, in the meantime, if you're catching the replay, please hit the like button and comment below and let me know you're here. And please share comments as you go progress of the show, sharing your thoughts and views and questions or what have you. Yeah, so good morning to you guys. My hair is a little unruly today. I slept with it in a bun, so it's a bit wavy and whatever. So you got a wild OG Star Wars here. So I'm happy to be here with you guys as well. And so today's topics, we're going to get into a bit of dark forces. So I'm encouraging anybody who has played the games. I have encouraged anybody who has played the games to pop in, and so we can have the discussion about the games, because I haven't really played the games. I do have the novels here. So I have the duology, or not the duology, the trilogy here of the novellas here. So all 3 of them. So the first one in his story, other than the games, is Rebel Agent, then Jedi Knight, and then last, I think I got that wrong. First one is, I'm sorry, I got that all wrong because I'm just rushing through. First one is this one, the Soldier for the Empire, then Rebel Agent, then Jedi Knight. So I got all out of order there. I'm sorry. I'm like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. So I really love these. I do have some notes. I thought I had my note paper in here because I was comprising. Oh yeah, it's not all of it, just a little bit. I should have more, but I was comprising information to compare and contrast these. Oh, I don't know what happened to my main notes. They're not in here anymore. Damn it. But anyways, I'm comprising notes, or I was. I got to find that paper now. It's probably back there on my bookshelf. To compare Dark Forces, Kyle Katarn and Jan Ors to Rogue One and now Andor. So, I do have extensive notes. I love to do my research. I love to sit down and go through, write down notes. I do have to go and travel into the Disney Star Wars lore to comprise notes from there to compare and contrast. So today we are going to talk about Dark Forces and compare it with Rogue and maybe even Andor. And cringe factor, we have 2 interesting bits here. So we have cringe factor, we're going to talk about George Lucas. And the main title for that cringe factor is how Disney Lucasfilm is using appeal to authority to keep fans' interests. Whether they say, George, we are inspired by George. We're using his formula, or he approved, or whatever the verbiage is, that in that direction. They'll use that for, to get fans interested, and or they will say that George, um, that they're going to go ahead and step away from George's plan, which they already did. Really, they already did with that, and go their own direction. So that's been the latest news here. So first of all, I want to see who's in the chat, and let's go ahead and check it out. So I hope you guys are all doing great. I'm doing great. And one other announcement before we move on, and I'll remind you guys, I'm going on vacation beginning this Saturday. So I won't be able to stream next Thursday. During the time frame, I won't have any time at all because I will be out of Powell. I'm going back to visit family. So for a whole week, I will be on the spacing that night. So I'll be tuning in from South Dakota, visiting you guys on the spacing. So I still am keeping that schedule. But because the powwow is happening 3 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I won't be able to, because I got to get myself ready, braid myself up, all of that fun stuff, all of that good stuff. So I will miss you guys. However, I'm going to comprise some upcoming fascinating lore bits that I want to talk about and discuss as well. So yeah, so we'll get into that. Let's see here. Make sure I'm not closing out the wrong windows. Here we go. All right, so let's see who's in the chat so I can start greeting you guys, because this is what Cap Chat's about. And I have Iron Inquisitor here with coffee and a breakfast orange. Nice. So on my meal plan, one of my breakfasts is an egg white taco. So it's basically egg whites with a little bit of beans and pico de gallo if I have that, and avocado, and then a tangerine. So it's really good. It's really, really good. And then Melissa Lord, a channel member, thank you so much for popping in here. Hey girl, OG Star Wars, I've got my Coke. Nice. And so Assassin, our moderators here, after party OG morning look, yay, or nay, chat. I slept with my hair in a bun, and I was like, what am I gonna do? And I was like, well, I'll just go with it, see how it looks on screen and stuff. I was just doing stuff around the house, feeding myself, getting ready, all of that. Let's see here. My friend is buying me one of the novellas. Oh, pretty cool. Yeah, so these right here, I think Jedi Knight, if you're looking for that, is the expensive one. So the most expensive one. I don't know why. Maybe because it's the conclusion to the story. I don't know why. But let me go ahead and look at thriftbooks.com to see if they have them up for sale there. And I'll share it in the link here. So I'm looking right now. Dark Forces. So if you guys need to add them to your collection. Oh, Star Wars. It'd be help if I put Star Wars. Let's see here. All right, so they do have for $39 Rebel Soul, or Rebel Agent, sorry. And then for $12 they have the Soldier for the Empire. And then for $196, I'm telling you, for $106.90, they have the Jedi Knight one. Whoa, I told you. So I'm going to go ahead and share this link. It has varying dark forces. They have the one that's together in the novella. I don't know. I don't think it's for sale. But I'm going to share a link so you can pick between the ones that you may need. That last one is an investment. I would suggest that you search around to find a better bargain. $196 for a little novella on the conclusion of the series, that's too much. So, but I don't know why. Maybe because it is the conclusion and you get more into the lore. You have the thought bomb going in here. When you compare it to the thought bomb and what happened during that time, there's a little discrepancy between that and Bane, but not bad, not bad. So yeah, so there you go. So hopefully you could find the third one, the last one in the trilogy, without any problems. But right now, that's the going price. Melissa Lord says, "My play the games; they're excellent. All four of them are great. Awesome, good. I have some game players here, so when we get into this, because it also leads into the Jedi Academy and all that stuff. So, yeah, and I do have a clip I'm going to play for you guys here pretty soon. And then Kyle Katarn, complete lore. Yes, I love the Jedi Knights game. The first one is basically Doom and Duke Nukem style graphics, yeah, and gameplay, but in Star Wars. I all the games on CD. Oh, you have all the games on CD for PC. Okay, yeah, that's pretty cool. And that thrift store that I shared the link. This is third hand, so you're not sending any money to the mouse. So you're not sending any money to the mouse. So if you don't want to support the mouse with Disney or with Star Wars in general, especially the original lore, then that's the way to go. It's finding alternative sources to purchase your to add to your collection. Iron Inquisitor says, not only does Lucasfilm use George's name when convenient, but so many other people do it constantly. Yes, I noticed that. I noticed that. And let's see here. Melissa Lord says, OG Stars, I could put all four games on a cloud drive for you to download. Oh, I have one, I think. One or two. Yeah. I want to play it on my computer back here because this one here that I'm using, it's supposed to be for my graphic designing and stuff, but I also use it to stream on. Yeah. But I would love that. So we'll talk about that more some more. Kenny Long says, good morning, the Lord. Not going to see Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I've got better things to do, like organize my sock drawer. Well, that's good. I mean, you know, you decide where you want to spend your money and who you want to give your money to. And then, yes, thank you so much. So, you guys, I'm so excited. Some of you guys know that I've been really, I want to say not on a fitness trip, but I'm really buckling down and taking better care of myself with me and my messy hair. Um, and So I decided to enter in the challenge through the fitness company that I am seeking my coaching and fitness meal plans and everything from. And it's called the Be Iconic Calendar Challenge. And it was 8 weeks. And during that time, I hurt my ankle dancing. So I got Achilles tendonitis. So I didn't rupture any Achilles or anything like that, but I have Achilles tendonitis. So I have to strengthen and massage and work through the tissue that is thickening and stuff like that. Not comfortable. For a while there's certain things I couldn't do. So with me and my coach, we focused on changing up the plan a little bit and working the upper body and doing different type of cardio stuff that wouldn't impact my healing ankle. And this was all going on during that challenge. And so as it was coming to a conclusion, I was like, instead of just dropping out completely because I feel like I wasn't able to put in all my efforts, which I did, considering that I had an obstacle to go through, I still put in effort. I submitted. So when you submit, you have to do your front and back in your bathing suit. You have to pose. And then you're asked to do a lifestyle picture. So, whatever you love to wear, you can fix yourself up. So I did my hair, I did my makeup, I put on a cute Hawaiian red dress. And I took a picture, I did the picture within that. And then I had to do an interview. So within 1 minute of what results I've noticed and what I've learned and what I've gained in this experience. So I had to say that in less than a minute. And I had to do a headshot. So I was like, here we go. I didn't get to full out, go towards my overall goal because I had an obstacle, but the goal was to finish as well and to be and make changes from when I started. And I did. And so they only selected a handful. There was like 100, 200 women who submitted. And I think there's like maybe 30 of us. I'm not sure. I have to take account of that. But there's a selection, but not everybody made it in. I was chosen, and I'm very excited about that. And I know Cap Chat's not about this, but I just wanted to let you guys know because I'll be asking you guys to vote with all your email accounts that you have. So I was selected for the semifinals. So this vote, you're asked to select 5 women, and those who are voted for the most will make it to the final round. And then from the final round, the top 12 will make it into the calendar. And so I'm excited for that because it's about my journey in taking care of my body and celebrating my achievement, so that's what this is about for me. And so by supporting me and stuff like that and me making it in the calendar, I would be greatly appreciative of that. If I don't, I'll still be, I'll still be happy about how far I came, and very thankful for you guys' support. So anyways, long story short, I competed, used it as a motivational tool for my goals for myself. So it wasn't easy, but it's doable. And I do see a lot of significant changes. So thank you guys. Thank you so much as I take myself off camera. So thank you so much. And here we go. Dark Forces audiobook. There you go. So I forgot that that's there. I did share a short about going to Hidden Gems for some unabridged audiobooks. I will do another one for another channel that are featuring audiobooks, unabridged audiobooks for you guys. It's very important to share the compliments, not compliments. Jeez, I can't even talk. I need to take a drink. My mouth is dry. It's very important to share those who are accomplishing such big feats of giving us these audio books unabridged through YouTube. So there you go. All right. And I did share the link here so you guys can go and explore that link later. And then Iron Inquisitor says, yeah, the novellas got pretty expensive starting in 2020. Yes, because of Rogue One. And then now maybe because of Andor. And we'll get into that. Now, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and share the clip or the video that I have lined up for us here. So I'm going to bring that up here because this is the trailer for Dark Forces. Let's see here. Oopsie, I accidentally got out of that. Cancel. There we go. So this is the trailer for Dark Forces. So we're going to go ahead and listen and watch this here and talk about it some more. So hopefully you guys can hear what's going on. I do have a sound shared.
I want you to remember, son.
Did you guys hear that? Give me a thumbs up so I can press. Let's see here. Hide comment. Let me know if you guys can hear that. Did you guys hear that? So I'm going to go ahead and play since I didn't see nothing from you guys on that. You heard it. Okay, great. So let's go ahead and rewind that a little bit and start it over.
I want you to remember, son, when you're at the academy, how very proud I am of you. What a fine young man you've become.
Well, your blessed ship is going to be in the repair bay for the next few days.
Like always, I owe you.
Jarek, the man who murdered your father, is on great. He searches for the location of a sacred place, the Valley of the Jedi.
The Imperials are guarding it like a fortress.
Well, I think of this as an order. Don't you?
What would you do without me, Kyle?
I'd be a content old man. I'm not interested in petty political struggles.
Well, you should be. Jarek has great plans for the rebirth.
of course, it's got a buffer.
Of the Empire.
He's a Jedi. Deserves a battle.
When someone desires information, they come to me.
Don't waste my time, idiot. Tell me who killed my father.
He is a dark Jedi.
My internet's fine here. It's just buffering on the YouTube end. At least I think so.
Dark side? I've been there. Do your worst.
You're just gonna get into more trouble.
That's when you bail me out.
Ooh, that gives me goosebumps every time. It is so amazing. Let me go ahead and get on that. You don't want to watch this.
Unveiled Dune 2 Hell on Earth. Stores have already ordered more than 500,000 copies of this sequel to Doom, the violent program.
There we go. Let me go ahead and remove that. There we go. All right. So that gives me chills all the time because it is, I know, I've seen that, Jerry. I an Inquisitor sense. I love how the subtitles called Jarek Jerry. Jerry! But as I said, it gives me chills because of how serious Lucasfilm took even creating gameplay for the fans. And we have actors and actresses, live actors and actresses that were casted to play these characters. And Kyle Katarn is one of the most beloved EU Star Wars character outside of the movies. And him and Jan Ors are pivotal towards retrieving some of the plans. We know that the plans were split up. The schematics of the plans were, split up so that if by chance the Rebel Alliance the rebels took one plan, they don't have the whole complete plans. Versus Disney Star Wars, where it's just on one complete, chip, I guess you could say, or disc. Yeah. Thank you, Melissa Lord, so much. And, so there's the variance right there. There's the differences. Is that Star Wars under George Lucas, it seems like the planning for these stories and the planning within these stories, Rebels versus the Empire, were more strategic, more compelling, because they made the Empire ruthless, strategic, and smart. And the Rebels, too, were strategic. They were very smart. And, and they were compelling, I guess you can say. And versus what has been witnessed in the new lore, where Palpatine's like, when I die, everybody's going to die with me or somehow fade away or whatever. So that was, in Chuck Wendig's books or whatever. And then they contradict that. And then they are like, oh, the plans are going to be all in one disc and it's going to be stolen with these Jan Ors and Kyle Katarn 2.0 characters. We're going to copy everything that was done in Dark Forces, but switch things up to kind of make it look like ours. It was original idea. And so forth. So those who played the games, how did you feel? What did you think about this adventure with Kyle Katarn, Jan Ors and stuff when you played and got into it? Because I know gameplay versus reading can be a total different experience because it's kind of like it's in your hands, your control, you're moving along, live gameplay, not live, but you know what I mean. Back then it wasn't live like it is live today, where you could play with a bunch of people online. But back then, playing the characters out, going on the mission, retrieving the plans, all of that, and seeing all the dynamics and the world of Star Wars, basically, or the universe or galaxy of Star Wars. So those who played the game, let me know, your experience and what you felt about that, because that's very important. Because like I said, when you read the novels or the novellas versus playing the games, you're going to have a different view. And that's even more apparent in Couture. So Couture, basically Knights of the Old Republic, there's a lot of people who love the game because they could choose their character, the sex of their character, what have you, and the adventure, I guess you can say, in a sense, than reading the book. So they already have their story already lined out for them, what they think that should happen, how they had it happen and stuff, versus what the book or the canon basically, or what the story said in the novels. So that's something interesting that I've noticed throughout Star Wars history, when you have your game versus the novel. The game basically is canon, with the exception of how you play it and the type of characters you build. Like Revan, because with Dark Forces and that game series with Kyle Katarn and stuff like that, you really don't have the option of changing him, really. But with Couture and Sator and all that, you do. So you have already your own expectations on the storyline and stuff like that, versus what you read in the books, which they're canon. So let me know what you guys think. Like, what's your guys' experience with Dark Forces when you first played, or even if you played again and again and again, and all of that. So I'm going to go ahead and finish reading some of these comments here. Jerry, yeah. Ayla Secure and Shock T get that I'm not dead card. Yeah, I think I addressed that last week or the week before. So that was one of the cringe factor topics. And I do need to start cutting clips, short video clips out from Calf Chat, maybe cringe factor clips, for people to watch and stuff like that for the channel. Or maybe even a little bit of lore clips. I don't know. But I do need to clip out and make individual videos from this Calf Chat for the channel. I have all these plans, and right now I'm on a big, huge work project and stuff. So it's kind of like everything's in the back burner and piling up. So Soul Assassin says the actor who played Kyle Katarn is retired from acting now. Might be able to interview him one day. OG. That's my thing. I want to interview like Matthew Stover, like one of the authors. I would love to interview him because, he's had a lot of experience with George. I mean, a lot of the authors did. But because, he's written one of my favorite novels, Revenge of the Sith, I would love to bring him in. But yeah, I would also love to interview him. I wanted to interview Shannon McRandall, but I know she was going through some health issues, cancer and stuff like that. So, and those who don't know, Shannon basically is the model, the actress, or not actress, but is the model, is the persona of Mara Jade. So when people say, oh, well, George didn't care about her and blah, 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 blah. Well, he's the one who approved her to actually be Mara Jade. So that's very interesting. It's like people lack intelligence to do their research and just want to just spit and spew the same rhetoric that they've seen out because it's easier. And I find that very lazy, very dishonest, and not very intelligent. So that's how I'm just going to leave it there. I'm just going to leave it right there. And again, thank you so much. Matt G with his cups of calf here. Good morning to you. I know I've seen a few people come on and say, hello, I'm here. So if I missed you, like Zaggerot and Red Hoodwinked, hello, you guys. I don't mean to not address you guys as you come in. But you guys are all welcome. And thank you so much for coming in and supporting Calf Chat. I can't wait to start going back. I want to go back into doing a little bit more book reviews because I, of course, wanted to move through all the novels. That's a long task. And Matt Wilkins is doing such a great job with that. But I want to do my own little book reviews like I've started out this channel with. So stay tuned for that. Another thing, another thing that I want to do or continue. Okay, the anonymous gamer says, if I remember correctly, Dark Forces was the first time that they had live actor performing lightsaber battles since the filming of Return of the Jedi back in 1983. Yeah, I shared, if you missed it, I did share their trailer. So I did share the trailer, and in fact, I will put it in the description link so you guys can watch it. And if you follow me on Twitter, I do have a YouTube community channel that's dedicated to this channel here, and it's or not channel, a community, YouTube community for this channel. And it's dedicated to this channel, George Lucas era, Star Wars, all of that. We're not there to really compare and contrast or belittle Disney Star Wars. My main account is for that, basically. But that is to share, information about George Lucas era Star Wars, discuss, talk about what we love, and talk about what we don't care for. Within that time frame, George Lucas era Star Wars. So that's basically 1976 all the way up until to 2012 or 2014. If you want to get in those gray areas, I guess you can say. But so that is dedicated to this channel. And then my community page or my community button for this channel, I do post there, but not as randomly as I want. So I will post the links there so you guys can watch it again. Chris Schultz says, hello from Michigan, Star Wars Squawk Box here. Hello to you. And then Couture, whoop, whoop, yep. And let's see here. Melissa Lord says they're old LucasArts games, so they're awesome. The game is different because you get to live through the story and make your own choices. Yes. And Lance says, OG Star Wars, I'll be honest with you. OG Dark Forces kind of sucked the game gameplay wise. It had the game graphical problems early for hand. They also used too much gray for the terrain. So I mean, everybody has their view. Back then it was up to par for its times. We know over the years, gameplay, game technology has advanced so much. There's a lot of gray terrain and background because of the areas that he is running through and stuff. Because I am familiar with the games. I am. So I meant for Jedi Knight Dark Forces too. Okay. Let's see. Dark Forces, and this is Soul Assassin. Dark Forces is tied to Couture games by the Valley of the Jedi, correct? And that had the thought bomb Bane used and learned from Revan, from Revan. Yes, and that's the thing. So they're saying like the thought bombed and how it occurred because in Darth Bane trilogy and versus the game and versus Dark Forces. One, it's in the cave, then Dark Forces, it's in the valley. But then when you kind of get into the logistics of it and realize that there was explosions set up and that was an explosion as well. If you get into the thought bomb. So what used to be caverns or caves are now valley and it must be shallow caves through the hills or whatever. So that's just my critical thinking about that little bit of contradictory that, has been presented and talked about many, many times before. So it's very interesting. I call it Star Wars cringe clips. Yeah, there we go. Star Wars cringe clips. There you go. Yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you so much, Christopher. Melissa Lord says, I first played it when released in 1995 with no cheats. The game is hard as fuck. That's what I heard. Especially since I first used a keyboard and mouse before shortly after that getting a USB controller. Yes. Okay. So I do have, like I said, the first one for sure. And I attempted to play and I don't have a controller. That was hard as fuck. Yes. So right now, because I'm so busy, I can't play games right now. And so I have to be honest with myself. I can't play games. So I value any gamer here that comes in and is able to, help me create the conversation with your experience of these games. Because like I said, I don't have time to play games right now. And when I was a gamer at one point, and then my evolution of myself, um, I did everything. Okay, so I got into band. I played the clarinet. I got onto the drill team, so I danced on a dance team for my school. I also was a huge nerd artist type person, so I did a lot of stuff for the school and around the community art wise. And of course, on top of that, loved all my pop culture and stuff like that. So with all of that happening in my life, I've hardly had a chance to sit down and wind and play games. So, so that's my evolution there. I did enjoy playing games, and I can't wait to have the time for myself to sit down and explore games once again, once I can slow down. Soulless Essence is all the best to Shannon McRandall. Correct. Yes. And there you go, you guys. So if you guys don't know who Matt Wilkins is, he's kind of like the grandfather, I guess you could say. I'm not trying to age you, Matt. Sorry, I'm not trying to age you. But he basically, his YouTube, he came onto YouTube, in, in lieu of the buyout and stuff, and creating a community to keep classical Star Wars, the expanded universe, in front of everybody. Had campaigns on creating the billboard to keep legends, alive, basically, and all of that. So he was one of the people that I was drawn to as a Star Wars fan during that time. So, and he motivated me in so many ways to keep pushing and going. And the last straw for me to really get on and use a channel that I was using to share clips of my dancing and stuff. One thing that really set me forth into creating this channel here, evolving this channel into OG Star Wars, is The Last Jedi. So that was kind of like the breaking point. I'm like, I need to create a channel to keep Star Wars in front of people, like the true, authentic Star Wars. So here we are. We kind of slowed down a little bit, but I'm not going away. And I realize there'll be ebb and flow because life happens. There'll be times for like 6 or 7 months. I'll be spitting out content like crazy for you guys on Star Wars lore, all of that. And there'll be times like right now where I'm going to slow down. And right now the dedication is at least keeping me and you guys together in conversation about Star Wars on CapChat. Yeah. So thank you guys. And thank you to Matt Wilkins for being one of the catalysts to getting me, really going and being another voice. I really appreciate you. And he's a good friend too as well. Let's see here. And the community page here. So with that being said, let's get back to Kyle Katarn, Jan Ors, and Dark Forces. Now, who here, and this is not to shame you, unless you're Abu Nas, I will shame you always for this, but who here has watched Rogue One, and what was your impression of Rogue One when you first watched it? And if you played the games or read the novellas of Dark Forces and all the lore tied behind that, and even Han Solo trilogy, because there is, I think, the last book, Rebel Dawn, I think it's called, where the plans are, another portion of the plans are retrieved by Bria Theron, I believe her name is, and transmitted to Leia during that time. Yeah. So let me know, compare and contrast for yourselves. Like, what you thought about Rogue One versus what you know about the lore in classical Star Wars. And again, I'm not trying to like make this as a shame thing, but if you're Abu Nas, I will shame you anyways, because we just have that thing, that going on. But yeah, let's see here. So Lancer says, OG Star Wars, just for comparison, the Halo series and the Alien vs. Predator FPS series after Atari is how you make an epic FPS series. Dark Force 1 and Doom 1, finding doors is the challenge. Yeah, the doors thing, yeah, that was kind of a challenge here. And I did listen to a video. I didn't really necessarily watch it because I was beating, about how Dark Forces was made compared to Doom, and Dark Forces was made before Doom. There was like this whole concept that Doom is the one that inspired Dark Forces, and that's not the case from what I was listening to. So I'm going to find that video and share it with you guys as well, because that's an interesting little history tidbit on game history. Let's see here. There was an article stating that Kathy wanted Star Wars to move away. We're going to get into that. So hold on to your seats, ladies and gents. We are going to get into that. Okay. So with that, I'm going to scroll down a little bit more. So before Disney acquired Star Wars, it was always called the Star Wars saga, not the Skywalker saga. So there's a little bit of history there. Thought bomb, yeah. Let's see here. Smash the like, you guys. Smash the like. Lancer says, OG Star Wars autocorrect move FPS from my previous comments. Dark Forces 1 suffered from the same problems early. Yeah, I knew what you're saying. Anonymous Gamer says, who is Shannon McRandall and what does she have to do with the EU? Also, primarily found out that the old EU through Matt Wilkins' old EU book reviews haven't looked back since. There you go. See, he has helped people return or come into the EU as brand new fans to the EU, which is a beautiful thing. And this is also another target of my channel, is having you guys remain within George Lucas era and continue your love for it, because sometimes you can get burnt out and go into the dark side, the negative side, and just walk away from Star Wars all completely because seeing the direction Star Wars is being taken. So this is about keeping you in the light side, my friends. No, I'm joking. But anyways, using a little bit of lore play there on my words. But yeah, to keep you guys enthusiastic about continuing your journey through George Lucas era Star Wars, through the EU, the games, the comics, the novels, all of that. And then also being able to keep your mind separate from what's being done today when you watch the movies, George Lucas's movies. So yeah, so pretty cool, pretty neat. And that's what this channel is about. Yeah. So with that, Shannon McRandall, she is the face of Mara Jade. So let me see. I'm going to go ahead and bring an image up for you. Shannon McRandall. There we go. And once you see this, and why are you not letting me click on it? There you go. I just want a huge image of her, just not... Okay. Zoom in. I'll bring up an image of her, or images of her. I don't mind sharing a lot. So let me go ahead and bring that up. Share screen. There we go. So here you go. So this is Shannon McRandall. So she was approved by George Lucas to be the face of Mara Jade. So very beautiful woman. She did go through some cancer issues and stuff. And as far as I know, she's doing fairly well. There's also images of her and Mark Hamill together from a Star Wars or a convention, or I don't know if it's Star Wars convention or not. But so that was pretty interesting to see and stuff. But yeah, so here she is. Beautiful lady, beautiful model. Our Mara Jade, the one that inspired Mara Jade. And so hopefully now that you have your answer there. Okay, there we go. Let's see. Who is okay, I already read that one. Lancer says, come on. It's like everything wants to take its slow time today, but my internet's doing good. So this is weird. So maybe it's just StreamYards. But yeah. OG Star Wars, I like Rogue One. I actually like the side story movie and shows. I think K2SO is my favorite droid. So there's the thing. Okay, so we all know what characters are in replace of what characters happen. Let me turn my camera back on. So we all know K2SO, we all know who he represents. And of course Janors, who is Janors in Rogue One, who is Kyle Katarn in Rogue One, so on and so forth, with the exception of switching up some roles and stuff like that. So there we go. So what I'm going to say about this, and we'll get into cringe factor here. So we're going to start segueing into cringe factor a little bit more, because we are going to talk about Andor too. Is, the reason why Rogue One was liked and feels very familiar to people is because it is basically their version of Dark Forces. So why go to generic copies when you can get the authentic stuff? It's there for you. It's there for you. So there you go. And that's my word on that. Hello, Batu. How are you doing? Good morning to you. Let's see here. Red Hood Winks. Rogue One is okay, but I feel like they could have done better. It felt rushed just to get to the ending, which brings us to the beginning of A New Hope, which contradicted A New Hope as well. Because what Dark Forces and even Han Solo trilogy did well, so more so the Han Solo trilogy, but what the lore in general did well under George Lucas's helm is keeping continuity in how the plans got to Leia. Rogue One did not do that. And the only reason why Rogue One is memorable, other than it feels very familiar because of Dark Forces, is because of Vader. The Vader scene. Without that, do you really think people would even think about Rogue One at all? Think about that. Think about that. Now, did Dark Forces need to rely on Darth Vader at all? No. It held on its own. Yeah, there's cheesy parts. Like, especially when you read the novella part of it, there's cheesy parts. But there's also very, very good, compelling parts. Like the killing of Kyle's father. Holy heck. They literally decapitated him and put his head on a stick, on a pole or a sphere outside of the village. And when Kyle returned to see what had happened and get information from his home, and and all that, like the disc that his father left him, seeing his father's head on that sphere, holy hell. And just being told by the Imperial Navy, your higher ups, your commanders and stuff like that, being lied to by them, saying that rebels killed your father to kind of spark you for your hatred more for the Rebel Alliance and stuff like that, and finding out that you're lied to, that is some serious propaganda going on here. That is better writing than what Andor has done. But people don't realize that. Like, there's a lot of juicy bits, compelling moments in Dark Forces alone. Like when you read the novellas and stuff like that, and even probably the games. Like I said, I can't really say much about the games because, like I said, I didn't play, so I don't, but the stories are the same. It's just the experience is different because you get to actually play. Yeah. And so there's a lot of compelling stuff in that story alone. Let's see here. Let me scroll down. Lancer says, OG Stars, if I had my own edits to fix the new trilogy, it would just be the scenes of the Empire TIE fighters wrecking rebels, maybe the Star Killer and Palpatine just blowing up everything. There's a lot. I think that whole thing, that slate needs to be cleaned and redone. Because even Luke in his own self was not in character and in continuity to his character arc. The model is giggity. There you go. She's very beautiful, like beautiful redhead, beautiful, and even her persona, like how she's standing there and she's like deeply staring at you in those pictures. That's Mara Jade. Mara Jade was a fierce being. She's a fierce woman, right? Very confident in herself as well. And Shannon, you know, fits that persona too. And it's very important how the person who's playing the character, whether you're a model for or not, like you know their body language is very important. Of their body language, it has to be match the persona. So yeah. So 99th Jedi Warrior says, how much you want to bet that if they did bring Mara Jade back, that they would make her a different race or something in today's Star Wars? Yeah, I mean, that are they will just completely she'll just be a shell of a character. It wouldn't even be her at all, just by name only. And that's just like a lot like Thrawn. He's in name only too, because his experience, even though as much as Timothy Zahn wants to say that I written him so that his story from the old EU versus the new one can, come together. No, it's not, because he changes even the planet that Thrawn was born on and stuff like that. So giggity goo, laugh out loud. That's funny. Let me see here. And Christopher Barker says, without Vader, it would have been Bor 1. Correct. And that's the thing. That's my point there. Now imagine, just by seeing the trailer, and you can also watch the story. There's actual story you can watch out of Dark Forces. And like with that trailer we watched, there's an actual little clip of the story, movie or film or short clip of it that you can watch. And it's very exciting. So imagine if that was taken and created into an side story to Rogue One, not the prequel. I mean, they can even say it's a prequel, what have you, because it does lead up kind of up into that. But imagine that coming out as a film, Dark Forces, and keeping in continuity with the novellas and stuff like that would be easier, because the novellas are very short. Would be easier to comprise into scripts and stuff like that. How much better of a story there would be. Now, the only thing I would say is, like, I would not want Disney Star Wars to do that, or Disney Lucasfilm. I would love to have seen it through George Lucas era and leave Vader out of it, because we already have our antagonist. We have Jarek and his crew, right? Get to see Kyle Katarn go through his Navy training. And, if you read the book, and I don't know if it's in the game, but when he graduates, they have that march. And there's a certain point of that march where they're going up against a cliff, I guess you can say. And they have to all stay in line and sync, because it's the military parade type march, I guess you could say. And if you're not careful, you could fall off. So that's all I got to say. It's crazy. It's crazy. They have lost cadets graduating because of that. But just imagine watching Kyle Katarn making his march up there. And then once they're up there, like, they award him a medal for, his campaign that he led, where he first met Jan Wars. And during that time, and I'm not going to spill a lot of things if you don't know the story. I want to intrigue you to go play and read. That's what this is about. And then Jarek is up there, and as they're marching up, you could see a big old. It talks about seeing a visual of a statue of Palpatine and how he's made to look in that statue. Very interesting. But as they parade march to their spot to graduate and blah 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 blah, Jarek is involved, and so Jarek basically single-handedly, selects Kyle Katarn because he knows he's a Force sensitive, blah blah blah. And but just imagine all that played out and how Jarek got into Kyle Katarn's mind and what have you and stuff like that. Imagine all of that on screen. And then imagine, seeing Kyle Katarn getting the news about his father, creating his hatred further for the rebels. And then imagine him finding out the truth. So there's a lot of little compelling tidbits. And then imagine, now then him stealing the plans and stuff like that, and all that stuff that leads up to, and eventually, like Jan Ors meets Luke Skywalker and Leia Organa. And what's so funny is that they made Luke and Leia, especially Luke, sound like a mythical being, and a lot of people not really realizing who he is. Even though, just like his father, Anakin Skywalker, they were the poster boys of their time. Anakin was the poster boy of the Clone Wars. Luke is the poster boy of the Rebel Alliance. But imagine in Disney Star Wars, no one not really knowing who Luke is. Well, with this, Jan Ors, she's heard about Luke, all of his, his accomplishments, because he's a big hero. And she's just like taken back. Very taken back. Very honored to be in his presence. So just imagine that. Like, even though Luke's going to be in it for a little short amount of time, just imagine like meeting your hero, or not even say hero, but meeting the person that you heard about, that you're in the same organization or group fighting for your freedom and stuff like that, and meeting the person that has taken down the Death Star and stuff like that. That would be so compelling to someone who has the same mindset of fighting for your freedom against the tyranny of the Empire and stuff like that. So imagine that on screen as well, compared to Rogue One, where there's not that much like nuanced feeling that's compelling, that really brings you into the show. It's like they just are going through the motion in Rogue One. And Jan Ors even steals like the disc from Kyle Katarn that he, found at his father's house, that his father left him, that had the information of the Valley of the Jedi. So imagine trusting Jan Ors, and like you're wounded and you're recovering, and she goes and steals that plan out of your pockets of your clothing to take to her superiors, because they're like still very cautious of Kyle Katarn, and she's even told if he messes up to kill him. But then in her mind, she's like, I'm not doing the right thing, but she's got to take orders. So that's where they kind of mirrored Andor, casting Andor to Jen Erso in that sense. So that's another information, another story beat that's identical to Kyle Katarn and Jen Ors as well, except for roles are reversed there. Because I needed to switch things up, right? It's still the same story, still the same thing, but the roles needed to be switched up. And I'm going to say this again. Why go for secondhand shit when you have the authentic stuff to read and play? People, don't lower your standards. Stay with the authentic stuff, the true Star Wars, the stuff that was already done and created that's much better. Don't stoop to that level of, going for secondhand stuff just because you could see it on screen. All right, let me go ahead and see what you guys are saying. Rogue One is a below average movie, and when the hallway scene is removed, it's really obvious, correct. And Dark Forces didn't need it. Yeah, I remember Ma did that to Morgan Katarn, correct. OG Star Wars, I think I like Rogue One enough that I would have still liked it without Vader. Is that a rhetorical question for yourself, or are you questioning yourself? Okay, let's see here. Never really saw Rogue One outside of the clips online. After Last Jedi, I pretty much just ghosted anything Disney Star Wars related for a good long while. Well, good for you. You're not missing much. Melissa Lord, that's like Sansa looking at Ned Stark's head on a stick while Joffrey laughs and won't let her look away. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Like Jen Erso from Rogue One, she's put into motion because of her father, seeing her father and her mother killed or whatever. I mean, I'm trying to remember the story. So if I'm wrong on some accounts, I apologize. And so that's very similar to Kyle Katarn. But she was a child, and then she was raised to be by a militant and trained like an assassin, I guess you can say. But then yet she doesn't act like one. So that was odd. That was odd. Whereas Kyle Katarn, you know, his father still encouraged him to get into the Navy, the Imperial Navy, even though he was still working a part of in support of the rebels. And he did what he needed to do while still supporting his son. So that's the crazy part, is still loving your son while you're still fighting. Eventually you might have to fight against them. Like that is something else. Just imagine that, the what ifs, you know. But just, you know, but then we know what happened. We knew what happened. And that was a pivotal point. More compelling than Jan Orr's. I'm sorry. I will say Kyle Katarn's father's death, because he was lied to by the Imperials about his father's death, is more compelling than Jan Orr's, like, you know, her mother being killed, I guess you could say, and then her father be taken away as a imperial slave scientist or whatever to create this, and then being executed in front of her. Yeah, that's sad. I know it is and stuff like that, but still, there's more treachery behind Kyle Katarn's life because he trusted the Empire more, and for them to betray him, like lie to him and betray him. Because Jan Orr's, or not Jan Orr's, Jen Erso, she already knows what to expect. She already knows her father is working and is a slave for. Like, she needed to find him. And that was her whole thing. So maybe you guys will agree with me, maybe not. But I believe Kyle Katarn's loss of his father to the Imperials versus Jan Orr's loss of her father to the Imperials, Kyle Katarn's hand down is much more deep, much more compelling. Like, it makes you hate the Empire even more as a reader or gameplay person or what have you, looking into the lore. Man, I'm getting deep with this shit. And we got to get into Cringe Factor. I'm going to keep this under 2 hours because I do have an appointment I have to go to. Oh, wow. But yeah, that's deep. How much do you want to bet that if they did bring Mara Jade back, that they would make her a different race or something today? I think I already read that one. Okay. Question for the chat. What was Kyle's first ship called? Oh, yes. Okay. So I know this one. I'm not going to say anything at all. So what was Kyle Katarn's first ship called? Let's see who knows. So there you guys go. There you guys go. And let's see here. Lancer says, I do like andMore series, but it's got some serious problems. The rebel cell in that movie is so freaking dumb. Yes. andMore does not stand up to the test to, like, even Dark Forces. And even the comic series, like Forces Unleashed, all of that. And the only thing that they could say that really stands up for the andMore series is that it's kind of the same formula, and we'll get into that more. We're going to go into Cringe Factor here pretty quick. Excuse. That it holds up to the formula of the Rebel Alliance having different factions, which is original lore thing that we knew. If you were into the EU back then, we knew that the Rebel Alliance formed from different factions. There's the Corellian Treaty that brought the factions together. So, if they were smart with the andMore series, they would have brought in something similar to that. Because they are so close to the beginning of the OT, or the Battle of Yavin, they need to show some sort of treaty, alliance kind of thing, bringing the factions together. There has to be distinctive factions to be brought together. Which original classical Star Wars did so well? Again, a missed opportunity because Gilroy, he wanted to do his own story. And because he wanted to do his own story, he didn't do a Star Wars story. He did a science fiction story, but it wasn't Star Wars. All right, let's go ahead and move on. 99 says, or 99th, OG Star Wars also, the Wikipedia has many of the Star Wars characters having pronouns. Yeah, we have addressed it since that started coming to fruition a while back. Once it first started happening, we addressed that, which is not, we shouldn't apply our worldly, what's going on in our world at the moment into Star Wars. There were some species that, like Oral and his, I think they're Gans or whatever. But anyways, that use pronouns depending on their class and their society and their accomplishments on when they start talking to themselves in the first person versus the pronouns like address like and how they address themselves. So, but that's a species thing. So keeping Star Wars vast and diversity, even with like certain species using certain pronouns, makes it more diverse than inserting what's going on in our world today. So that's what I have to say about that. OG Star Wars, the guy who agitated people into rebellion, the one that even the Alliance founders are wary of. I'm thinking the way he acts, his part of the Zon consortium. Okay. Let's see here. Dark Force story. Cutscene. Yeah. Maybe when I return, I will pull up the story, Dark Force's story, and we'll watch it together. So when I return, we'll do something like that. I think that'll be fun. Since I'll be, won't be available for you guys next Thursday because I will be out having fun, family, powwowing, all of that. I think we'll do that. So Melissa Lord says, yeah, I really want to watch Andor because a character that we know is already dead and is really interesting. What stakes? Laugh out loud. And he's a good guy. I know because he shot a guy in the back the first time I saw him. And she's laughing. Oh my God. Oh Lord. I only know bits and pieces and through watching reviews and doing some research, putting some stuff together. And but it's pretty easy story to talk about because like I said, it's predictable. It's very predictable. With Vader, that film is mostly Rebel Massacre one. Especially nearly the end of the film. Katarn is better than Andor. You got that right, girlfriend. No, you got that right. Batu says, only thing I liked about Rogue One was the Rebel uniforms. The new helmets looked nice, better looking than the ones from Battlefront. Well, Battlefront is a game. So, if you would get, live versions of that and stuff, I'm pretty sure they look pretty cool as well. Dadman Walking is here. What's up? Another channel member. Thank you for tuning in. We're going to get into Cringe Factor here pretty soon. So let me go ahead and remove some stuff and get those articles up while I read through the chat here. But he says, hey, I'm late, but lurking while driving. Drive safe, my friends. Oh, friend, always stay safe and be well. Let's see here. Which one do I want to do first? We'll talk about the Andor one first for cringe. And someone was trying to call. I don't want to talk to you. I'm busy. So let's see here. And I don't want to share this. Stop sharing. There we go. Let me see here. I want to go back to my scene, my original scene. Here we go. All right. So let's see here. 99 says, OG Star Wars. One thing I loved about Kyle Katarn was how he used the light and the dark, even when he became a Jedi. Again, he wielded the dark side in order to best serve the Jedi. That's a controversy because, there's no gray. And this is where people are going to say there's no gray. He was using the dark side. He was tainted by the dark. But just because you use the dark side for good intentions doesn't mean it's good. And I'll just leave it at that. And we'll just leave it at that. Stardust, La Jen Estero is Stardust like Cody Rhodes. It's hilarious when they type Urso, it autocorrects to error. Excuse me. Oh my god, I'm losing my voice, you guys. Error. Yeah. I've gotten that Jen Urso and then error. Yes, it is an error because Jan Ors is the only woman of that time that her and Kyle. Jedi Survivor Fallen Order can't help itself and just had to shove Vader in. Yeah, there's a lot of that too. It's so interesting how much they have to use Vader at times. So here we go. People are finally answering. I should have scrolled down earlier. And it's the OG is gonna go watch the yearly Buffaloes versus Tourist games. If you know, you know. Oh my god. I've been sharing some funny clips because we as natives, we like to joke around about these tourists who think that buffalo are docile. And so they want to pet the fuzzy creatures, the fuzzy cows. And that doesn't end too well. And it always happens. There's signs up everywhere. Like when I get back to South Dakota, like Custer State Park and all that, we'll have signs up, about buffaloes being dangerous. Don't pet them, or pet them at your expense. They don't really say pet them at your expense. They're not trying to encourage you to pet them, but tourists do that anyways. And so we are doing running jokes right now in, I guess you could say, quote unquote, Indian country, and sharing clips, memes about this. And so I shared it on Twitter just to make everybody laugh, and so that's what's going on. So I'm going to go watch the yearly toss of the tourists and have a good time. I'm going to sit there with my popcorn and see how many tourists get tossed. There you go. The tossing of the tourists. All right. And what's so funny about that is, like, even my relatives back in the day, like my grandma and her generation, were joking around about that too. It's never ending. It's like people don't have this common sense. They think that they're fuzzy, docile cows and they want to pet them. No. Small Time Republic, hello. The Vratics who lived on Typhera, the Bacta planet, were using plural pronouns way before it was cool. Correct. And maybe one day I will comprise a list of all the species that did use a certain type of pronouns according to their species, language, and thought process, and how it was translated into basic. That would be very interesting. Versus other species who don't, because Star Wars back then, George Lucas was so diverse, it really didn't need to be changed for diversity's sake. Okay, Lancer says, OG Star Wars. That reminds me. In the Marvel Aliens comics, they made a group of characters based on real-life leftist extremists as the heroes. They attacked a Wayland base, letting xenomorphs out. Oh, I did not know that. See, I don't get into that portion of the lore for Marvel and stuff. So thank you for sharing. And we have Jason Fox here. Darth Cadus. Woo! Darth Cadus. Everyone in the chat is awesome. Instantly knew Kyle's ship's name. Yes. That's a unique name, like Moldy Crow. I giggled when I first read that. I was like, holy shit, okay. Like someone naming their like barely running piece of junk, like the Falcon, that's cool, whatever. But like when you have a ship that's called Moldy Crow, you're like, where, what? Okay. You try to imagine like, why? And then 99th says, question for the chat. How many lightsabers did Kyle Katarn have? All right, so I'm going to leave this question up, and then we're going to segue into the cringe factor. So I usually try to do cringe factor at the top of the hour once we get into 10 o'clock my time. but we kind of went over because I went on my little talk about Dark Forces, which, man, I mean, there's a lot to talk about even within that. So I can't wait to watch the little movie clips of that and go further into the lore when we meet again, not this Thursday, but the following Thursday. So how many lightsabers did Kyle Katarn have? All right. When I visit my parents next, I'll boot up the old desktop and share the best bison versus tourist photos I've saved there. Oh my God. You're going to have to somehow share them with me. That's crazy. That's crazy. And then Soul Assassin says, I think 3 lightsabers, I could be off. Around here, we encourage tourists to not pet or feed the wildlife, especially the black bears. Oh, yeah. And yet they still do it anyways. It's friggin' crazy. Holy heck, people. Come on now. Like, value your lives. These are not domestic creatures. And even, like, cats can get batshit crazy on you at times. Jason says, good to have to be here, OG Star Wars. Well, thank you. I'm so happy you're here as well. Thank you so much. All right, so let's get into cringe factor as well. That question's still up. Do you know how many lightsabers Kyle Katarn had? So, and that's, I would say that would probably be within Dark Forces and not his whole entire career. Or are you in his whole entire career? So that's the question. So that will be the difference of, I don't want to talk to you. That would be the difference of the question. That would be the difference of the question here, the differencing of the question. His whole entire career leading up to a Jedi Master are just in Dark Forces. So let me know. So that would be, like I said, the answer would vary from there. So let's get into cringe factor. I took the articles down again by accident, but we'll get into that here. I'll just pull them up. But first of all, let's get into this.
So uncivilized.
All right, so I'm going to pull up the article right now. Let's do this, you guys. Let's do this. So here we go. I'm going to switch the scenes here. Okay. So speaking of George Lucas and that time frame of lore, so basically the dark times are the imperial time. You know, they say George Lucas was the mastermind of Disney Star Wars best show. So what do you guys think about that? The best show, which they're saying, and the bar, may I add, is very, very low, which is very sad because George Lucas and his staff of creatives, whether it was in the game department, whether it was in the EU licensing department, because the licensing department didn't only handle just the novels and stuff, it handled the games licensing, the movie licensing, all of that. But in the EU department, in the game departments, you know, in the film departments, all of that, him and his creative, his staff set the bar so high. Because of the fact that Star Wars, when it first came out, you know, basically, you know, broke some records. Like people at first they were being questioned. People are not going to want to watch that kind of show. You know, if you get into the history of George Lucas and stuff and him creating Star Wars, you know, he was told, like, we don't think that this is going to be a hit, basically. And I'm paraphrasing. I didn't pull up any exact quotes and stuff like that, so I'm paraphrasing. However, you know, there was a lot of negative feedback that he was going against, with exception of a few. He did have people who believed in him, right? And he really was the leader of independent filmmaking, really, because he wanted to stay away from the construct of Hollywood as much as he could, even by taking his own studios away from Hollywood. Ironically now, or maybe, you know, or ironically, or whatever you want to call this, sadly now, it is in control of a corporate that, you know, is under the structure of Hollywood, basically. So man, how much has this fallen? Like, how much has Lucas fallen in quality? in production, that bar is very low. So when you see something like saying like the best show, that bar is low. Like within Disney Star Wars, that bar is low. And if you compare it to original Star Wars, they can't even go over the bar for the best. So they can't even clear that bar that George set. So that's not saying much, really. That's not saying much. So let's get into this article here. All right. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit. No, not that close. Okay. So this is by Thomas Bacon. So he's another person that we've heard about some more, writing for Screen Rant here. And Screen Rant is always a contributor to Cringe Factor. So take a lot of this with, at face value and stuff. But also there is some truth we found in a lot of these articles. Like it's almost like they're reporting the direction that Disney Star Wars wants to take their lore and stuff. And there's a bit of truth in there. But is there truth behind this? You make that decision for yourself. Andor is Star Wars' most creative TV show, and there is a simple reason. It fits perfectly with George Lucas's own vision, telling a story he imagined. What? Telling the story he imagined. All right. So the main theme of this Cringe Factor is how Disney Lucasfilm is using appeal to authority to keep fans interested. And this is what this is about. And what I mean by appeal to authority is using authoritative figure. And mind you, George is the authoritative figure for Star Wars because he's the creator, right? So authoritative figure to keep people interested, whether they use it positively, negatively, or whatever. They're using his name to validate their direction. And are you falling for this? Are you falling for this trick? Think about it. Because so many fans, especially Disney Star Wars fans, and mind you, I'm happy for them if they like it. Good for you. Enjoy. I'll keep my heart where it belongs in George Lucas era. But are you falling for that? Are you really, really falling for the fact that using his name to validate their purpose and their why and their structure and their direction for Star Wars? Is it convincing you to continue to watch? I think too, and I'll just add this too, is those who are coming up with the rumor mill, like recently with like George Lucas is buying back Lucasfilm, are falling for this because they are trapped in a Stockholm situation, right? Stockholm syndrome situation. So they want anything that's going to result into a positive direction for Star Wars, for Lucasfilm, that they want to see. They are constructing these rumors to keep people hopeful. Like the Civil War was another one that's been repeated how many times? Kennedy leaving is another one. How many times has she been fired now? I lost track. So see how this is going? So if you can't appease the fans for saying Kennedy's leaving, well, we'll just throw George's name in here to validate the lore. See how that is? Don't be fooled. Don't be tricked. All right. So, but mind you, if you truly loved it, fine. That's cool. But don't think that George Lucas has anything to do with it. He doesn't. He does not. So George Lucas himself was the true mastermind behind Andor. What? So here we go. George was the true mastermind behind Andor. George Lucas sold Lucasfilm to Disney, so we already know that, and then it didn't take a long time for the relationship to sour a little. Disney CEO Bob Iger has openly admitted that that was one of his greatest mistakes, acknowledging missteps and communication problems in his autobiography of The Ride of a Lifetime. So he also has admitted, and I've talked about this here on my channel and other channels, admitting how they betrayed George, how they basically tossed the plans, that the treatments that he gave them, that he sold to them with the selling of Lucasfilm, all of that, and they went their own direction. They did. They went their own direction. So back in 2013, Lucasfilm's Dave Filoni, here we go, because he's another one that people think that are up there with George, that knows as good as George the direction of Star Wars, which has proven many times before that he does not. He contradicts himself with the lore, with what he's doing, the lore versus Disney Star Wars, the lore versus George Lucas Star Wars. So there's a lot of questionable things when we talk about Filoni in general. So he conducted an interview with IGN in which he discussed Star Wars, the Clone Wars Season 5. As a part of the interview, Filoni focused in on the character of Saw Gerrera. Introduced as an enemy of the Separatists, Saw would go on to be played by Forrest Whitaker in Rogue One. And he's also returned to Andor. According to Filoni, the character arc was exactly what Lucas envisioned. Of course. And mind you, Filoni uses appeal to authority all the friggin' time. If you have not really explored Filoni in general, to validate himself, he will appeal to authority at all costs, meaning he will use George's name at all costs. There comes a time when he needs to separate himself from that and be truthful. So here we go. And we're going to get into the crust of this. That sounds so bad. We're getting into the crooks and crannies. We're going to get into the crust of this. That sounds like there's something bad going on. But if it's a rebel alliance, so this is his quote, if it's a rebel alliance, what does that mean? And how did that come about? Really, Filoni, do you really have to ask that? Well, there have been various scenarios in the EU. There's basically many accounts. There's not various scenarios because everything happened in tandem with each other, I guess you can say. This is really a story that we were excited about because it was coming straight from George. How was it coming straight from George? Maybe he will share with us. The idea that there would be pocket groups of rebels around the galaxy that would later kind of form a rebel alliance galvanized under Mon Mothma and Bail Organa. So this is where they friggin' got it wrong. He's getting it wrong right here, you guys. Holy shit. Okay, so if you guys listen to Raging Rhino, he's got a really bad taste in his mouth about Andor because of the fact that Bail Organa is not used. So that's speaking from probably his own research, talking probably with me and other people about the development of the Rebel Alliance. Now, if you played the games, like if you play Force Unleashed, you will know that Bail Organa is basically one of the founders. And basically, he's a supporter and sponsor, but he has to kind of lay low because he's protecting Leia, right? But he is one of the founders, sponsors basically, so he's helped giving credits to the cause, right? But in Andor, he's not even mentioned. Yes, Andor shows there's pockets, and I said this before when we were chat earlier today, or not today, earlier in the show, that Belle was never present in the Disney lore in Andor. And that's a huge contradiction right there. Because even when you read the novel and watch the show, Revenge of the Sith, or the movie, you understand that Bail Organa is basically one of the leaders of the formation of the Rebel Alliance. Yet they do not use him whatsoever. And so I question this with their diversity choices, because if they're really into diversity, why aren't they using Bail? Because he's a dark-skinned Star Wars human. Why aren't they using him? So I'm guessing Filoni is talking about Forces Unleashed here because George was heavily involved in that. But when you look into the EU, when you do your history, your historical research, I guess you can say, George has a say in everything that's developed because it has to somewhat mirror what he expects to happen. Whether he's going to write it exactly like that is in question, but it has to go along the line of what he expects to happen, right? So of course, like I said, of course there is different factions, but we know that Mon Mothma, Bail Organa, and a group of them, a small group of them, and if you watch the game or played the game or read the novel or what have you, of Forces Unleashed, signed the Corellian Treaty to unite these separate factions, to create a stronger rebel alliance, to form the rebel alliance, right? And this is a missed opportunity of Andor. So if Filoni's trying to praise Andor and doing something like that, they failed. So how does this make a good show? How does this how is this Andor in line with George's focus when that was even the focus? How? Like Thomas Bacon, the author of this article? How are you contriving, or how are you coming up with what Filoni said that makes Andor great? Because what Filoni says here contradicts what happens in Andor. So let's go on. This is exactly the shades of gray morality tale behind are being told in Andor. Oh, the shades of morality thing. This is like a common theme these days. Rebel Alliance, the forming Rebel Alliance versus the Empire during the Dark Times, or the Imperial Times, the times of the Empire, was always black and white, good versus bad. But they want to like shade everything of morality, so there's not really a good guy or a bad guy. Have you guys noticed that? That was never George's focus either. If you pull up interviews from George, and like I don't have it in front of me, but like in Star Wars archives, both the OT and the prequel one, he talks about good versus bad, dark versus light in the story. It was a classical cut and dry black and white, and I'm not using that diversity way, black and white, good versus bad type story. But now the focus is going in shades of gray for morality. And this is what Filoni is also hinting on. So where is Filoni's best interest towards George's story? It's never there. It was never there. So let's go on. Andor may not be the most popular Star Wars TV show. I don't think anyone is, but it's easily been the one to receive the most critical acclaim. There's a sense in which this is unsurprising writer and showrunner Tony Gilroy was given permission to blaze a new trail for the franchise. So no, well, in a sense, I guess you can say, basically, do what you want. And he did. That's blazing a new trail, because he didn't really write a Star Wars show. But he did take the franchise in a new direction, I guess, but out of the Star Wars galaxy or universe or whatever. He honored Lucas. He honored Lucas in the best way, building on Lucas's prequel trilogy politics and taking them in a fascinating new direction. Okay, so I did not watch the whole show. I watched bits and pieces because like I said, I do for research wise, and I also watch people's reviews, good and bad, like it or not, I watch them. What prequel trilogy politics did he use? Because I didn't see none, really. And then Aureli's Mon Mothma and Stalin Skarsgård, or whatever his name is, mysterious Luthen Rael, have proven to be compelling characters, with Luthen embracing a more brutal, violent form of the rebellion against the Empire than Mon Mothma. So we go back into that gray morality part. It's appropriate then that the bare bones idea behind Andor is so clearly inspired by George. So this is what this writer contrived. Because they're making assumptions that it's based upon the prequels politics, and that it's kind of in tandem with what was written for Forces Unleashed with the different factions of rebels, that it is in George Lucas's vision, which is not. What you've seen done before, like with Dark Forces, like with the Han Solo trilogy, like especially the last book of it, and The Force Unleashed, that's in George's vision. And he was involved with them one way or another, whether physically there or like approving the story and the plot, the lines, where the direction it can go. Because we only get books back then if George truly thought that it would go with his saga, with the saga, right? Whether how much he was involved with it or not. So he had the last say. So what say you? What say you about this cringe factor article here? Let me see. Let's see here. All right. OG Star Wars, did you ever play a game called Star Wars Galaxies? No, but I've heard of the game. Like I said, I haven't had a chance to really sit down and explore a lot of Star Wars games because of what was going on in my life as a teenager. Shades of Grey. Everybody wants to be Game of Thrones. I hate Hollywood because they're all copycats. Yes. Thank you guys. Please vote. I hope I'm putting it out there. I'm going to be in that calendar, and I can't wait to advertise that to you guys. And, you know, I was going to cosplay in Leia's indoor outfit, and that costume was too big, so I had to send it back. But if I make it in, maybe I will go ahead and just invest in the Slave Leia costume, and I will surprise you with a thank you stream in that costume. So come on, you guys, let's do this. Let's do this. All right, you heard it here first, you guys. You heard it here first. Get me in that calendar handle, and I will cosplay as Slave Leia. I'll make sure that I order the right size. So when you're on a fitness adventure and taking care of yourself and stuff, you know, size, sometimes you shrink, you gain muscle. So sometimes you get a little thicker in some areas and stuff like that. So not a bad thing though, but it's just sizing sometimes can get very unpredictable. I guess you could say it could change. Let's see here. I don't like Andor because Diego Luna is a terrible actor and the writing is worse. Well, a lot of people was like the writing was the best ever. I don't know why, but they were like that. Let's see here. I would love to see more Tales of the Jedi that centered around the adventures of Dooku. There's a lot of contradictions with that as well. That has been pointed out by people who have watched that. I have not watched that, so I can't really specifically point out what the contradictions are. So there's that. Bail, Leia, Dodonna, and Mon Mothma were the founders. Correct. There you go. There you go. And let's see here. That's more.
We're plumbing experts, not marketing experts. So we brought in a big-time mad guy to give us ideas. He suggested we wear these.
All right. All right. Let's see here. I hate when I'm away from the screen and then so an ad decides to play. That's kind of awkward. So that's more or less exactly how the Rebel came to be. Mon Mothma, Bail Organa, and Garn Bail Iblis, which is another one, were just the foundation they all rallied behind. Correct. And that's the missed opportunity. So yeah, there are going to be various factions because the galaxy is so big, but what unites them? The uniting part is basically what is the glue to this all. Because without that, there's nothing, right? There's nothing. There's no control. There's no organization. And they're not all working in tandem together under a group of people and a leader. So that's where Andor falls flat. That's where Andor falls flat, is because there is not that organization. There's none of that. And it's so close to the OT timeline. That needs to happen. And if that would have happened, and if Tony Gilroy would have explored the lore and realized that that's the missing piece, one of the missing pieces, then maybe it might have been a little bit better. I don't know. I don't know what you guys think about that. Let's see here. I feel like if Filoni stopped contradicting himself, he would usher in some good for Star Wars. I did love his Tales of Jedi miniseries. So let's go ahead and get into the next one because we're coming up on 20 minutes before I have to get myself pulled together some more and go to my appointment. So let's go ahead and get to the second article. And this goes more into the appeal of authority theme that we have today for cringe factor. So again, are you allowing yourself to be tricked every time a source like Screen Rant or Star Wars associate like Filoni appeals to authority and throws George's name out there to help boost up the lore or the direction they're going? So are you guys falling for that? Are you guys tired of that? Are you guys just like rolling your eyes? And it's like, seems like too, that these people who do the rumor mills also do the same kind of tactic, which makes them no better than Lucasfilm themselves in a sense. So let me see here. Okay, I got to make sure I have clicked in the right one because they almost have the same type of themes here. All right. So here we do. Let me bring up the screen. There you go. No, wrong one. There you go. All right. Let me scroll down here because I see comments are popping up now. 99th says, also the chat was right. Kyle had 3 lightsabers over his whole career. Okay, so that's what I was making sure. Over his whole career. That's why I asked that. And what else? They just reused the Senate room for the prequels. That's all they honored andMore. Yeah, that's another thing. All right, so let's get into this article here, and then we'll come to the conclusion here. And I don't want to spend too much time on this, but this just goes back to the theme of appeal to authority when it comes to Lucasfilm associates, fans, and the rumor mill. So, and I think it's like it's a turnoff here because we know George has said many times his disgust of the directions Disney Star Wars has taken the franchise. So we already know how he feels, but they continue, like Filoni continues to use him, and people like the fans continue to use him to validate Star Wars now. And then even the rumor mill will use him to validate their point and stuff. It's like he is now separate, gone from the franchise. Stop using his name. That's all I gotta say. So Star Wars' next movie will leave George Lucas behind and begin a new chapter for the saga. Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy says Star Wars will move beyond George Lucas with Rey's new Jedi Order movie. So, like I said, associates. Kathleen Kennedy was placed there by George. We'll just leave it at that. And she's been fired so many times, but here we are. Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy has, and one more thing, like maybe a week ago, so we're on a countdown here, she will be walked out and fired. Yeah, that's another prediction by the rumor mill. In 2 weeks, which was presented 2 weeks ago, or a week ago, I'm sorry, she will be officially fired. So you guys, put on your tickers. Let's see if that really happens this time, if they're right. Lucas president Kathleen Kennedy has indicated that the next Star Wars movie will be moving from George Lucas's as Rey's new Jedi Order film will begin a new chapter. Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker mark the end of Lucasfilm's mission to complete Lucas's 9-episode saga. Actually, no. So we're going to just leave it here. We're just going to discuss this. Maybe I'll scroll down a little bit more. When you do your research and get into George's story, he thought there was going to be 9 installments. And the story basically is about Anakin, the rise and fall of Anakin Skywalker. So when he was done, like when he started making the OT, he thought it was going to take 9 movies to tell the story, 3 trilogies. And then when he made the OMPT, he realized it's going to only take 6. He really didn't have a backstory whatsoever for Luke Skywalker, and he said that countless times. He, basically was like, I already told the story of Anakin Skywalker, how he began, how he ended. Basically, I'm paraphrasing. It's been documented this over and over, in interviews and all this stuff. Like even in the cinema of George Lucas and the Star Wars archives and stuff, he thought it was going to take 9 to 12, ended up taking 6 installments. That he was able to tell what he wanted to tell. And then he goes on to say that the rest of the story was told by the EU, by the authors, the novels, and he was fine with that. And then we'll get into like the Star Wars archives for the prequels. He had a vision of what Luke's story would be after. Mind you, he said the movies were about Anakin Skywalker, the rise and fall, and he told what he needed to tell. It only took 6. So when he spoke about, quote unquote, a sequel, basically Luke's story in the Star Wars archive, which also has an idea of Maul and Talon in that as the antagonists, what he had mentioned is what has already been told about Luke and Leia in that story post Return of the Jedi. Because when you read that interview with Paul Duncan about the possibilities of Beyond, if he was to create more story film-wise, he would be telling the same stories that the authors wrote already that he approved of, other than thinking of doing a clone or what have you and having Talon in there. Mind you, when he went forth with a story for Talon and Maul, it became a game, and the company course corrected the continuity for that. And then the buyout happened and the game development was canceled. It didn't get beyond like the starting plans of it, I guess, and some concepts of it and images and stuff, but it was canceled. So that kind of gives an idea of like, if he was to do something and do another trilogy featuring Luke building his Jedi and Leia rebuilding the new the Republic back into the New Republic, which has already been told. The company probably would have helped him keep continuity from what I've seen with that game development. But anyways, let's go on further with this as well. So they are going to take their own direction. So didn't we think when you first heard Disney was being bought out, or not Disney, Lucasfilm was being bought out by Disney, there was kind of a hint that they were going to go there in their own direction from the beginning, because that was stated when they said, oh, we're going to go ahead and not use the EU anymore. We're going to go into our own direction. And that was also being said after they threw out his treatments, George Lucas's treatments. So with that being said, what do you guys think about this? So this is what she says here. And I think it offers just tremendous opportunity to introduce new characters and start with something fresh, because we culminated with what George was creating, and now we take all of that and move it to the next chapter, which I believe many thought was going to happen anyways after the announcement that the EU wasn't going to be used and the new characters were going to be introduced. So didn't they really do that with the sequel trilogy? So what are they going to change? Are they going to change the direction of the Force? Who knows? So does this bring you confidence? And I'm going to leave it here. Does this bring you confidence with the direction of Star Wars? Does this make you excited? Does her announcement using appeal to authority by bringing George's name in here, then adding, we're going to go a different direction. So basically maybe breaking away from the formula that George created. Who knows? But how does this make you feel? Are you now totally out of Star Wars to where the fact that you're just remaining in George Lucas era Star Wars, enjoying the content that was created there? Are you just on the sideline with your popcorn watching all go down while you have your favorite EU novel in your hand? How does this make you feel as a fan? And I leave that with you guys, that question. Are you done with Disney Star Wars? Are you now keeping your heart with George Lucas era because it's done, it needs to die? But how does this make you feel? Are you happy with the content coming out? Are you curious? There's no wrong answer. This really goes into how you think and feel about it. Let's see here. And speaking of giving someone a hard time, who knows indeed. I'm confident that nothing good will come anything Disney fuck Lucas film related. Correct. And if your ears are ringing and you weren't listening, yeah, I was talking. I was shaming you without you being here for liking Rogue One. Lava Disney is Renfield, a cheesy vampire. Yikes. And the only reason why it's easy to do that is because Luke is now officially a useless Mickey Mouse piece of shit. Yeah. Okay, Batu says, Ray's New Order. Ray's New Order. How can these canon fans not see what they're doing? The whole message is forget about Luke and focus on our golden poster childs. There you go. All right. And I was a freshman in high school when Disney bought Star Wars, but I thought they would just Disney up the entire franchise. So far, they did exactly what I thought and they would do with it, ruin it. Yes, Abu Nas. So have fun listening, catching the replay, and leave your comments. I would love to know what you have to say. All right, you guys, we're going to start closing up here since I'm wearing pajama pants with the shirt I'm wearing, so I still got to change, at least to get decent looking. Well, more decent looking than I am right now. Even though I've been off camera most of the time, I think I'll put my hair back up in a bun. Let's be honest. The Last Jedi was basically Wizard of Oz with lightsabers. Wow. And you guys, the link is shared. It's also pinned up. If you haven't had a chance to vote, please vote me into the finals for the calendar and get me into the calendar as well. Okay, I have to call you back. And so I can, make it in the calendar. I'm so excited about that, you guys. I've never asked for anything at all. Really. Yeah, so support. You can use all your valid emails. I think this time around you only can vote once with the email that you used. I thought it was every 12 hours you can vote, but it looks like you only get to use that email once. So you get only one voting opportunity. If I notice that's not the case, I'll let you guys know. Last time you can vote every 24 hours with your same email. So please get that vote in. Support me on that as well. So I leave with this question. So how do you feel with the direction and getting away from George Lucas formula? Are you done? Is your heart remaining with the original content, the original Star Wars? So how do you feel? How do you feel about this? And don't fall for the use of appeal of authority to excite you for Star Wars, because like Kennedy said, and this is where Filoni is going to fall into that too, they're steering away from George Lucas. So don't be fooled about what Filoni says. The evidence is there. And it's all one single franchise. So it's not like there is a Mandoverse versus together. So with that, you guys, I hate to leave on a sad note. Next week, no calf chat. But when we return, we will explore more of Dark Forces lore and watch the movie clips and stuff. And so I want you to bring your popcorn and let's have some fun with that. And I'll figure out some kind of cringe factor we can add to that as well. So you guys have a good day. and may the force be with you. And I will chat with you guys later. Have a good week. I will see you guys on Spacing this Friday night. And next Friday, when I'm in the Midwest, I'll see you on Spacing again. Let's see here. And let me know when you play those games and I can get them to. Okay, yes. I'm going to leave my email here real quick before OG Star Wars at, where's that button? Oh, I hate when my cursor decides to move. That's crazy. Yahoo.com. Yeah, so that's my channel email, OG Star Wars at yahoo.com. And you guys have a good one. Get your vote in. I'm going to keep pressuring you guys about that. No pressure, but no pressure, you guys. But I would appreciate the vote. So you guys have a good day, and may the force be with you. And I will see you guys on the Spacing. The topics will be shared here pretty soon, and I'll share that on my Twitter, and then maybe I'll reshare in my community tab here on YouTube so you guys know what's going on. But of course, if you subscribe to Open Airlock Policy, you will get a notification of that as well. So it starts 8:05 p.m. my time, Friday night, that's Pacific Standard Time. So see you guys then, and talk to you guys later, and may the force be with you.
The fate of the galaxy is now in your hands. With a new... The fate of the galaxy is now in your hands. With a new LEGO Star Wars Slave 1, you can load Captain Solo, arm your weapon systems, man the cockpit, and take off with the most feared ship in the galaxy. But watch out for rebel ships. No matter the enemy, no matter the firepower, you control the action. With the new LEGO Star Wars collection.
Another happy landing.